over the next several days to week. And I'm going to start today. The compounding crisis of COVID, that is COVID-19, along with the economic crisis following that, and climate crisis, and racial equity issues. And, you know, some of the executive actions I'm going to be signing today are going to help change the course of the COVID crisis. And we're going to combat climate change in a way that we haven't done so far, and advance racial equity and support other underserved communities. We're going to rebuild our economy as well. And these are just all starting points. We're going to, in the process of rebuilding the economy, do what I said throughout the campaign and while running, rebuild the backbone of the country, the middle class. And so there's going to be a lot of focus on that. And I think some of the things we're going to be doing are bold and vital. And there's no time to start like today. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm proud of today's executive actions. I'm going to start by keeping the promises I made to the American people. Long way to go. These are just executive actions. They are important, but we're going to need legislation for a lot of the things we're going to do. And the first order I'm going to be signing here relates to COVID, and it's requiring, as I said all along, where I have authority, mandating masks be worn, social distancing be kept on federal property, on interstate commerce, etc. So this is the first one I'm signing. And the second one I'm signing here is the support for underserved communities, and we're going to make sure we have some bedrock equity, equality as it relates to how we treat people in healthcare and other things. We'll give you copies of these executive orders. And the third one I'm going to sign, and that's what I'm going to do while you're all here, is the commitment I made that we're going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord as of today.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Okay, President, please, guys. You guys, let's go. Please, let's go.
The President wrote a very generous letter. It's because it was private. I will not talk about it until I talk to him, but it was generous.
Okay, guys, let's go, you guys. Let's go.
To Brazil on climate change. You were rejoining Paris agreements, and you mentioned
Let's go, you
Brazil.
guys. Come on, let's go.
Do you have concerns about
Let's go, you guys. Press, let's go. Let's go.
Welcome to the White House.
Do you have any concerns about
You guys, let's go. Press, let's go. Let's go, you guys. Press, let's go, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see the president there being asked many questions by the reporters present, so that those latest pictures coming in to us of President Biden in the Oval Office, getting to work straight away and signing some of the executive orders that we talked about before, effectively trying to undo some of the policies put in place by his predecessor, Donald Trump, including, for example, the United States rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, and also ending a travel ban that former President Trump put in place on some majority Muslim countries to travel to the United States. Well, Mike Hanna joins us live now from Washington, D.C. The president had made it clear that he was going to get on to these issues straight away. Another key one is rejoining the World Health Organization, of course, being in the middle of a pandemic. What did you make of the first words and actions of the president inside the Oval Office?
Well, it was interesting that the very first executive order he signed there was a mask-wearing mandate in federal facilities. Now, this is a clear indication of what his priority is. The first priority he stated through the campaign, and he stated since his election, and he is now putting into action, is to combat the ongoing pandemic. The other executive order that we saw him sign there, among the numerous ones he's going to be signing or has been signing, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord. Now, this a signal to the US's allies around the world that it is going back to business as usual, as it were, remembering that Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord. Climate is something that Joe Biden regards as absolutely critical as well, and this is why he's made former Secretary of State John Kerry as the czar for climate control. He will be sending John Kerry to Europe for long periods of time to get international cooperation in terms of combating global climate warming. So certainly these issues, the other issues that we know he's going to be probing is, of course, a reform of immigration. Now, some of these issues he can sign by executive order, such, for example, as immediately halting construction on Trump's border wall. Others he's going to require a Congress. His immigration reform, for example, is going to need to be negotiated over weeks with Congress. But there his task now made a little bit easier for what happened in this past hour as well. 3 new Democrat members of the Senate were sworn in by the Vice President, Kamala Harris. This gives the Democrats a majority in the Senate. It's 50-50 with the Vice President having the casting vote. Now, this is absolutely critical. Control of the Senate, control of the House, all the parts are in place for Joe Biden to be able to push ahead with what is an immensely ambitious agenda in these first 100 days in particular.
Yeah, and at a very difficult time as well. Mike Hanna, thank you. Well, 𝐀𝐩𝐲𝐿 𝐂𝐚𝐥𝐿 joins us live now. She's on Black Lives Matter Plaza outside the White House. Heidi, we were just hearing what's going on inside the White House, inside the Oval Office. What's the atmosphere like outside?
Barbara, you're just seeing a splattering of members of the public gathered out here, a dramatic difference from what we've seen, of course, in inaugurations past, when thousands of spectators would be here, would be on the National Mall, watching every step that the new president is taking on his first day in office. But make no mistake, the fact that it is so deserted here right outside the White House, it is not just because of the COVID pandemic. That is because on the day that this election was called for Joe Biden, I was out here as well, and it was packed with people shoulder to shoulder celebrating Biden supporters, popping the champagne, celebrating his declared win. The fact that this is deserted now is because of the security presence. We, of course, know that downtown Washington, D.C., surrounding the White House, surrounding the Capitol for kilometers, in fact, has been blocked off to most traffic and to pedestrians, and that is because the FBI had warned, given January 6th insurrection with a violent mob storming the Capitol building, that there was still remaining security threats with the potential of armed violence here today. Well, those fears appear to have not been realized on this inauguration day, which certainly offers the residents of Washington, the troops, 25,000 of whom have been called to the city to offer protection. This is certainly a relief for all those involved. But of course, we saw Joe Biden taking in his oath and even walking along that short bit of the parade route, which he thought was important to show that there is still, that he had the strength to overcome the violence we saw previously, and that he had faith in the security of today. And as a symbol of returning to business as normal, and of course seeing him sign those executive orders, which notably, several of which directly overturned things that the Trump administration had done in the past.
And Heidi, I mean, you mentioned him wanting to get back to business as usual. When it comes to Washington, D.C., and when it comes to that level of security, when do you think it's going to be business as usual? Because presumably some of the threats that were present for today, for Inauguration Day, some of them will remain.
That's right, and Washington's mayor even said that this is going to be a new normal here in the capital city. What does that mean? Well, certainly the people who live here are very concerned. There are businesses that have had to be shuttered because of the security presence, and it's an inconvenience to everyday life having to get around the soldiers and the barricades. So the answer to your question is still unknown. At what point will the National Guard be rebased to their home states? Well, we know that this national emergency, the state of emergency rather, here in D.C. that will end soon after Inauguration Day. However, these FBI warnings of extremist chatter here and around the country, those are not going away. And certainly the FBI, whose director has said that right-wing extremism is the biggest threat right now. Domestic right-wing extremism is the biggest threat to the homeland, that certainly will be a major concern. And again, what the D.C. mayor has called the new normal that here in Washington and around the country, Americans just have to get used to.
Heidi Jo Castro with the latest from Washington, D.C. Heidi, thank you. And still to come in this hour, we'll have the latest live from Washington, where, as we've just been hearing, Joe Biden is now starting work inside the White House. And we're going to ask, what are the Biden administration's policy priorities? We'll take a look at what he wants to achieve